What's up, guys? Bailey here. So today I am coming with UFC 314 Wrapped, ladies and gentlemen. Now, this card was pretty interesting. I gotta say, 3 and 2 is not too bad on my predictions. We're just gonna jump right into it. All right, Reyes marches forward, man. This fight, I am very happy. I was very happy to see Reyes win. I love Dominic Reyes. I didn't think he was gonna knock him out, much less in the first round. But yeah, Reyes caught him with a counter right, kind of like Conor McGregor. And yeah, we're seeing a very revamped Dominic Reyes, right? A guy who has come off of 3 knockout losses, right? Or I believe it's 2 or 3. I know the ones immediately I could think of to date is Jiri Prochazka and Jan Blachowicz. But to go from where he went, right, from getting, fighting John Jones, getting robbed, to getting knocked out by Blachowicz for the title, to, getting knocked out by Jiri Prochazka, to now going to this 3 knockout streak, right? I mean, I say he's 2 fights away from a title. I think he's about 2 fights away from a title shot. I think that, he's in the top 15, right? He's not in the top 10 quite yet, but I do think he needs to fight someone within the top 10, at least the top 8. And I think that's where this fight just kind of makes sense. I want to see Rakic versus Reyes. I think this fight makes perfect sense. They're both built very identically. Rakic, I mean, he lost against Magomed Ankalaev in his last fight, who's now champion. I feel like this just kind of makes sense in a way. I feel like this just makes sense, especially because this fight is very winnable for both guys, but I really think this fight's winnable for Reyes. I think this would be a good fight. Moving on. Next, Yair Rodriguez shows that there's levels to this game, right? Levels to UFC. I've said this before, man. Like, UFC has the best guys on planet Earth, and he just proved it. I mean, Patricio Pitbull, hell of a fighter, right? Hell of a fighter. Chinned Michael Chandler, I think he's won like 2 belts. Just absolutely stacked in Bellator, just stacked resume, right? And then he comes in and fights Yair, right? Yair, throughout the entire fight, more active, higher level, just vintage Yair, essentially. Just what we all know him as. Like, just these very accentuated, fast, quick, kick combos. Just very high-level striking. I mean, there was a few times where I thought, Pitbull's going to just chin him a little bit or maybe hurt him, but there was none of that. It was all Yair from pretty much start to finish. He pretty much dominated this fight, and I'm very glad to see Yair win, and I think this could get him back into maybe the talks of a title, maybe not an immediate title shot after this fight, but maybe after a fight or two, I could see him definitely getting back into contention, especially after this fight. Now, what I want to see next, and I probably should have put Diego Lopez in here as well, because I feel like that would be a fight we'd like to see. But him versus Jean Silva just makes sense. Lopez lost. I don't feel like he should really fight Yair Rodriguez. I feel like he's just kind of in that limbo right now. But Jean Silva, right, who we're going to get into later, he has all the momentum, and I think he's the perfect guy for Yair Rodriguez to fight. Yair Rodriguez is like the perfect line of experienced veteran, and John Silva is like new generation newcomer. But I think this fight would be very, very good, very, very exciting, and it just kind of makes sense. Silva submits Bryce Mitchell. Now let me just talk about something real quick, okay? I'll admit when I'm wrong. All right, I'll admit when I'm wrong, and I was very wrong here. Very, 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 very fucking wrong. I thought Silva was going to get submitted by Mitchell. I thought that Silva was just going to wing his hits and go and try to knock him out, and then he was going to get caught in a guard and tapped out. That's not what happened at all. Silva, I don't want to say dominated, but he kind of did. He kind of did dominate this fight. Mitchell really didn't show him anything that was really a threat. I mean, just the stonewall, takedown defense where Mitchell would try to take him down, and really Mitchell had nothing. That's just kind of the reality. Mitchell really had nothing for him. Silva was way more well-rounded than we all thought, or at least me. And Silva has all that momentum just coming his way, and to be honest, and I think that fight with Yair Rodriguez, it just kind of makes sense. It just makes sense. I think him and Yair Rodriguez would just be a fireworks fight. I just think it'd be amazing. VOLK is the featherweight GOAT. Now, This might be a hot take, you guys. This might be, some people might look at me kind of fucking crazy, right? The casual fans, the guys who are like, oh, but he got chinned by Islam and Ilya, and how the fuck can you say he's the GOAT? Fuck you. That's my response. You're casual. Okay, Volk is the featherweight GOAT, right? Now, people might say, whoa, what about Aldo, right? What about Holloway? What about, he beat Aldo 3 times, he didn't beat Aldo. He beat, Jesus Christ. And some people want to say, oh, what about like Jose Aldo? He defended the belt for like 10 years. He doesn't have the resume Volk does. People want to say, oh, what about Holloway? He beat Holloway 3 times. Now, granted, I thought that there was some robbery there, but different discussion for another time. But yeah, I thought it was a good scrap, to be honest. It was a really good scrap. I thought that there was many moments in the fight where Lopez just kind of got outclassed, where I just feel like the experience was just too big, but his chin it's not all there, I feel like there was, he got dropped in the second round, which, okay, Lopez, hard-hitting guy, whatever. But there was times where it just felt like Volk's chin, he just wasn't as durable. He just couldn't take as much punishment as he was when he was in his prime. And people want to say, well, oh, he's the champ. He's not in his prime anymore. Now, obviously, he can still hang with these guys just because of how skilled he is. But I don't think he's in his prime. I don't think that if he goes for more title defenses, we're going to see just this, perfect Volk that's the exact same way. I think he's going to get chinned at some point again. Just because of the amount of scares that were in this fight. And I think the only thing that he really had over Diego Lopez was the advantage and the experience. But then you got a guy like Ilya, who hits hard and just hit him with the perfect punch, versus Diego Lopez, who was just kind of winging his shots, was just kind of looping them and going for that left-right hook that he loves to do, and they weren't the greatest shots. And Volk was in trouble at times, they were, and I don't know, Volk just didn't look all durable. He just didn't look all there, despite him looking very, very good. So as far as what's next, right, and you see this little thing right here, right, the perfect ending, right, I think Volk should retire. I really think he should retire. I don't think he should fight anybody anymore, right? If he fights Evelev, right, if he gets a win over him, it's not putting him any further in the GOAT status, right? It's not putting him any further, and, it's not going to put him ahead of, maybe a John Jones, right? Or some people want to compare him to Islam. I think he has a better resume than Islam. That's just me. That might be a hot take. But, it's all these guys that Volk beat, he beat at their best, and he beat them at their weight, and all those other things, but that's a different discussion. I think that Volk is the featherweight GOAT. I think he should retire. I don't really see why there's reasons for him to fight. I just don't. He has the perfect opportunity. The only guy above 35 to win the belt at UFC, especially in the lighter weight classes, which is something that's so difficult to do. I think that he's beaten everybody. What are we going to do? Wait for maybe Yair Rodriguez to get another win, or Silva, or someone like that? I just don't see a point. I don't see how it's going to benefit Volk. I think he will get chinned again at some point in his career, not because he's bad or because he sucks. It's just because he's getting older and his chin is withering away. It's not the same as what it once was. His durability isn't the same as it once was. And I don't see how he's going to, I just don't see how he's going to get better. I feel like he's just kind of capped, if that makes any sense. I feel like he's just kind of capped that, that's it. I feel like this is the best Volk is going to get for his age. This is the best we're going to see him. And I don't want to see him get knocked out, especially by a guy who wouldn't have beat him in his prime otherwise, especially when he has this resume he does. And I don't want to see him tarnish his literal GOAT status resume, just because he felt good and he wanted to get another fight and he had to get in there. I understand that, but at the same time, it's I don't think he needs the money. I really don't think he needs the money. I think he just does it because he likes to do it. But I want to see him retire. I really think he should. I don't want to see him get knocked out. I don't want to see him get chinned or beat by really kind of a nobody. Compared to him, right? A who's who. Really a nobody. But yeah, so that is my UFC 314 recap, my personal opinion on the card. Give me your opinions. Let me know what you guys think, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace.